When you go to the gym, you have a purpose. You're not just showing up for the heck of showing up. Like you actually have something like in the back of your mind. You're like, I'm here because I want to achieve this. And you have a specific goal. And then each time you're going there, you can say, I'm working towards this goal. And then when you're in those moments, you're debating, should I go today? Should I not go today? Think, how is this going to impact my goal? Is skipping a workout today going to move me closer to achieving my goal? Right?
Welcome to the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Podcast with Lee Hayward and Jeff Samataro. Since 1997, Lee Hayward's Total Fitness Bodybuilding has been online helping guys to build muscle, lose fat, and become the best version of themselves. The goal of this podcast is to provide you with real-world practical fitness and nutrition advice to look your best, improve your health, and feel confident in your own skin, so you can live life to the fullest without having your body holding you back from doing the things you want to do. So if you're ready to get started, let's jump into the show.
Hey there, how's it going? Lee Hayward here with the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Podcast. And in today's episode, I want to discuss the top 10 mistakes that people make when it comes to their weight training workouts. Now, I'm sure we could go over more, but these are 10 that I see a lot of. I see them when I'm working with my own personal coaching students and when I'm chatting with people who email me and reach out to me through social media. We're chatting back and forth, discussing workouts, fitness, nutrition, all that kind of stuff. These are some of the common issues that I see over and over again. So I really just want to dive into them. If you are making any of these mistakes, hopefully we can course correct here during this podcast and help get you on the right track towards better results when it comes to your fitness goals. So let's jump into it. One of the first mistakes that I see, and this is probably the biggest one of all, is the whole on and off again. I've been working out for a few weeks and then I had to take a few weeks off. And I work out again for a few weeks and I take a few weeks off, or so many months and so many months off, or this whole on and off again. It's so common when I'm talking to people about their workouts and I say, like, okay, how are things going? On and off, got busy by on and off again with the workouts. It's like the all or nothing trap, right? Like if I can't be perfect, if I can't be going to the gym 6 days a week, at least an hour a day, then what's the point of going at all, right? All or nothing. And we have to let that go and focus on being good enough and good enough consistently. Or another way of putting it, consistently good versus occasionally great. When you look at anybody who has achieved any appreciable amount of success when it comes to losing weight, building muscle, and achieving their fitness goals, the one thing that they all have in common is they've been consistent. Like you're not going to see great results on somebody who's on and off again, because whatever progress you make when you're on, you're going to lose when you're off. Right? It's like taking a step forward and then taking a step back. Like you're just spinning your wheels. You're going nowhere. And very often I'm talking to people like, oh, I've been working out on and off for 20 years. And then you look at their physique and it's like, you don't look like someone who's been working out for 20 years, because on and off for 20 years isn't the same as 20 years of progressive overload and consistency for 20 years. Working out for a few months and then taking a few months off and then working out again for a few months and a few months off. You have a few months of training experience over and over again over the course of 20 years, but it's not the same as someone who's been training consistently for 10 or 20 years. So that's the biggest mistake, right? You have to be consistent. Something is better than nothing. I want you to really wrap your head around that. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be good enough and good enough consistently. And to kind of share some real world experience with this, I'm currently working with a coaching student now, is one of my in-person clients at the gym that I'm working with. And we strive to work out 3 days per week, right? So that's our goal, 3 days per week. But life throws curveballs. Sometimes, you got to work overtime. Sometimes you get sick. Sometimes shit hits the fan. Something happens, right? And you can't stay consistent. So even though we strive for 3 days a week, there's a lot of times we're only getting in there 2 days a week, sometimes only once a week. But it's never gone where there's been a big gap of no workouts. Right. I think the longest we've ever missed was like a week. And we've been working together now for 4 months or so, about 4 or 5 months. And during that time, his strength has more than doubled in that last 4 to 5 months. Now, granted, he's, a newbie starting off. So he's getting the newbie gains. But even just averaging 2 to 3 workouts a week, he has been making incredible gains. And every time we train, he's seeing personal records, like going up an extra 5 pounds here, an extra rep here, adding an extra set, getting extra volume to his workouts. Like he's seeing progressive overload over the course of his training, even though he's only in the gym 2 to 3 days a week. So it doesn't have to be perfect. And it doesn't have to be this, 6 days a week, 2 hours a day, burning the candle at both ends. It just has to be good enough and good enough consistently. And once you wrap your head around that, it's the long-term consistency that takes a lot of the pressure off, because I know a lot of guys, when they're approaching their workouts, they think it's this big, massive ordeal when it doesn't have to be. I mean, could you dedicate 2 hours a week, like 2 1-hour workouts a week to going to the gym? I'm sure you could, like, especially when you look at the benefit over the long term. Like, even if you just said, okay, we take person A, they're not going to exercise at all. Person B is going to work out twice a week and do so consistently over the next year. 1 year from now, who do you think is going to be in better shape? Who's going to be stronger? Who's going to have more muscle? Who's going to be fitter? Who's going to have higher levels of athletic performance? The person who consistently works out twice a week for the next year, or the person who does 0 workouts per week for the next year? Obviously, the person who puts in consistent effort, even though it's relatively small effort, they're still going to see the results. They're still going to see the fruits of their labor. Now, could it be better? Absolutely, it could still be better, but good enough is still good enough. And I would much rather see somebody make good enough progress over the long term versus no progress over the long term. And that's what often happens when most people get caught up in this all or nothing trap and thinking that it has to be perfect. They create these mental blocks in their mind and they end up doing nothing at all, and ultimately shortchanging their progress. Whereas if they give themselves permission to just do a little bit, do a small workout is better than no workout. 1 workout a week is better than no workouts a week, or whatever. Like, just give yourself permission to take action, to get in there, to show up. Give yourself permission to do that, and then just let the progress happen as you progress. All right, so that's the biggest mistake right there, is the on and off, all or nothing trap. We want to be good enough and good enough consistently. Now, the next mistake that I see is no structure to the workouts. And this is a common one, especially for people who are new to the gym and haven't really studied fitness and nutrition or have ever worked with a coach before. They just show up and they either look around and see what other people are doing and they try to do the same thing, or they go in on social media, or they go in on YouTube or wherever they go and just type in, like, hey, what's the best workout to build muscle? And then they just see something pop up and say, oh, I'll try that. I mean, it's better than nothing, right? Anything is better than nothing, but it could be much, much more structured, having a dedicated program that starts off with you, your specific situation, your fitness goals, any injuries or mobility issues that you're working around, and then takes all that into consideration along with your schedule and your available exercise equipment, and has a structured plan that's built in a progressive overload fashion. And this is where having a coach can be so valuable. Whether you go to the gym and you hire one of the personal trainers there to set you up on a good solid training program, or if you want to come on board with like our Muscle After 40 VIP coaching program, I mean, this is what we do for our coaching students. We set them up on a customized training program to get them started on the right track, so they're not winging it through trial and error and just chasing the red shiny ball. Like, hey, I went on YouTube and I seen this, the new workout video popped up and I tried that. And then I went in on Instagram and someone else had something posted up and I tried that. And, I was at the gym the other day and this guy was doing a weird, funky exercise. So I tried that. And there's no real structure. It's just all over the place. Again, something is better than nothing. So, I mean, hey, showing up and having your workouts all over the place is better than doing nothing, but it could be a lot better. Right? You could have some structure and some progressive overload built in there based around you and your current situation. And to kind of go along with that, the next mistake is neglecting important muscle groups, right? Very often when you see people starting off to the gym, they want to focus on the show off muscles. Like when it comes to guys, I want a big chest, I want big arms, I want abs, I want the beach body muscles, the show off muscles. They're very often they're doing their chest presses and their bench presses, and they're doing their bicep curls and they're doing their crunches, because that's the muscles that they see when they look in the mirror, and that's the ones that they want to prioritize. And very often they're neglecting the back. Very often they're neglecting their legs, neglecting all the other muscles of the core, because it's not just the abs, it's, lower back, obliques, spinal erectors, all this kind of stuff, rear delts, rhomboids, the whole back in general. A lot of times that gets neglected. And if you train for a prolonged period of time, just prioritizing the show off muscles, very often that's going to lead to muscle imbalances and very often injuries as well. Because when you have imbalances, you overdevelop one side versus the other, it starts to pull on the joints, tendons, and ligaments in an uneven fashion, and this can lead to a lot of problems. Rotator cuff issues, joint issues, things like that, because the body is not being worked in balance and proportion. A good goal that I recommend, or a good guideline that I recommend for a lot of my coaching students and when I'm working with people one-on-one, is try and work opposing muscle groups. So agonist and antagonist muscles, so that you're not neglecting anything. And I'll give you an example of this. Like if we're doing an upper body workout, for example, we want to train opposing movement patterns. So like a horizontal press and a horizontal pull, overhead press and an overhead pull, bicep curl, tricep extension, do an abdominal exercise and a lower back exercise, do a quadricep exercise, do a hamstring exercise, like work each side of the body in balance and proportion. Now, that could be done in the same training session, or it could be spaced out over the course of the week. But you want to think of doing equal volume for both sides, right? Like make sure that you're getting equal volume of pressing, equal volume of rowing, equal volume of overhead pressing, equal volume of overhead pulling, equal volume of bicep curling, equal volume of tricep extensions, right? Equal volume for both sides. And this will help to create balance and proportion. As you progress with your workouts, you may notice certain muscle groups respond faster than others. This is quite common. Like after you've been training for a while, like maybe after a year or so, you may notice, hey, this body part's responding faster than that body part. And if that's the case, then you can prioritize the weaker body parts and place more emphasis, give them some more volume, some more priority. And then the stronger body parts that are responding really well, you can kind of put them on a maintenance program while you're prioritizing the weaker ones. And that's a more advanced strategy, but it's something that most people are going to experience once they get to the more advanced stages of their training. You're going to start to see some muscle imbalances, and then you can prioritize your workouts accordingly there. But initially, it's good to train everything in balance and proportion so that you don't have any glaring weaknesses from neglecting important muscle groups. And some of the key ones that get neglected: rear delts and upper back very often get neglected. The back in general very often gets neglected, because if the back, you can't see it, it's out of sight, out of mind. So when people are looking in the mirror, they don't really think of their back, but it's such an important body part to train because there's a lot of muscle there, and that helps to create a lot of strength and stability. And the back is going to support the show off muscles. Like if you want a big bench press, you need to have a big, strong back to support that bench press. So the back is one of the most key areas to train. And in the world of bodybuilding, they often say like the show is won or lost from the back. And in the sport of powerlifting, they always say like a strong man is strong from the back. So if anything, you should prioritize the back, because a lot of guys tend to neglect it, and we want to prioritize that. But that's one of the key areas. The lower back, especially like spinal erectors, those muscles that run up the spine that strengthen the lower back, the glutes, the hamstrings, very often they're weak links in the chain and the root cause of a lot of injuries. So having a strong back, not only good for injury prevention, but it's also good for strength, athletic performance, and health and mobility in general. The calves, another area that very often gets neglected. You see the chicken leg syndrome. Like a lot of guys don't want to train legs in general, and they try and keep covered up with baggy track pants and baggy pants. And so they say, oh, nobody's going to see my legs, or my legs get lots of exercise because I'm walking, or something like that. Like, no, walking does not stimulate maximum muscle growth in the legs. Leg training in general is very often neglected by most guys. So these are some key areas that you want to focus on, but do not neglect any muscle groups. Always think of training every major muscle group in balance and proportion. All right, what else we got there? Another common mistake that I see: skipping warm-ups. Like, how often do you see people just go into the gym and just hit the weight room floor and just start lifting weights? Like there's no warm-up routine whatsoever. And that is a big cause of injury right there. I mean, it may not catch up with you right away, but as you build up, your strength and your work capacity and your ability to lift heavier weight, that is going to be a major risk of injury is not warming up. If you take someone who's really strong and they just go in there and attempt to lift maximum weight without a warm up, the risk of injury is very high. So we want to be careful and always ensure that you're doing a warm up. Now, granted, it's going to take a little bit more time, but it's time well invested. I mean, not only will it help to prevent injury, but it'll make you more comfortable with your workouts, create that mind muscle connection, and make you more aware of all the different movements and the muscles that you're training. So, what I recommend, to start off, do some form of general cardio as a light overall warm up to elevate your core temperature, get a light sweat worked up. For me, it's usually like 10 minutes of cardio. That could be walking on the treadmill, could be using a stationary bike, it could be using like an elliptical machine or a rowing machine, pretty much anything. Ideally, if you want the best warm up, it would be a machine that works both the upper and lower body. So, like an elliptical machine with the moving handles, the rowing machine where you're getting your legs and your arms engaged there as well. That would be ideal because you're limbering up both upper and lower body. But pretty much anything that you do just to get your heart rate elevated is the most important thing. Just elevate that core temperature, elevate your heart rate, and get a light sweat going. Do that for about 5 to 10 minutes, and then get into doing some specific joint mobility exercises. Things like arm circles and rotator cuff rotations and trunk twists. And I also like to do neck rotations, like up and down, like up, chin to chest, side to side, ear to shoulder, doing some exercises for the neck, because the neck is very often neglected. And if you get a neck injury, that's can certainly hinder your progress. And not only that, but all the nerves run from the neck on down to the spine. So, if by warming up your neck, you'll prevent potential nerve impingements, and that could lead to aches and pains and mobility issues later on down the road. So, warming up the neck, warming up your shoulders, warming up your elbows, doing some deep knee bends, some body weight squats, some trunk rotations, things like that, just to get all the major muscles, joints, tendons, and ligaments moving under light resistance. Just either the weight of your arms and the weight of your body weight, just to move that. And then you can get into your actual weight training exercises. And even then, what I recommend, start off light and do progressively heavier warm-ups. Now, a general rule of thumb, whatever your working weight is for a typical exercise, take half of that for a warm-up set. And then for your progressively heavier warm-up, probably take 3/4 of it. And then you could probably work up to your top working weight. So let's just give you an example. Let's say you're going to do bicep curls and you're going to curl 20-pound dumbbells, right? That's your working weight, 20-pound dumbbells for bicep curls. Start off curling the 10s, do a light set with the 10-pound dumbbells, then do another set with the 15s, pump up those arms, get the movement going, and then grab the 20s, and that would be your working set for the dumbbell curls. That's a general guideline. Like for most exercises where you're doing higher repetitions, and that will work well. Now, if you're doing bigger movements or you're stronger, for example, like the bigger and stronger you are, the more warm-up sets you're going to need. So, for example, if you have a novice lifter who can bench press 100 pounds, they're going to need fewer warm-up sets to get up to their max weight, i.e. 100 pounds, compared to an advanced lifter who can bench press 400 pounds. The stronger you are, the more progressively heavier warm-up sets you're going to need to build up to that weight. And so you'll see that very often, like guys, like power lifters, they'll be doing multiple sets to build up to their max weight. And this applies too, like for the bigger exercises, like leg presses. Like a lot of times you'll see guys start off 1 plate per side, then 2 plates per side, 3 plates per side, and then just keep building up with the leg press machine, to whatever their top working weight happens to be. But they'll do multiple progressively heavier warm-up sets building up to their max weight. When it comes to warm-up sets, I would recommend erroring on more than fewer. So there's no harm in doing an extra warm-up set. Like, it's not going to hinder your progress at any way. If anything, it'll help to ingrain that mind muscle connection, ingrain that technique in the form. Because I mean, when you're lifting lighter weights, you can really focus on using proper form, getting a good mind muscle connection, feeling that muscle stretch and contract with each repetition. So it's a good learning tool to teach you the mechanics of exercise, those sub-maximal warm-up sets. But it's also going to help to prevent injury and prepare your body for the heavier weights. And you can also use these warm-up sets to adjust the settings for the exercise. Like if you're doing a machine and you want to make sure that the seat is in the right position or the handles are in the right position, like all these little nuances, the settings and the adjustments and whatever, you can use these warm-up sets to make sure that you're in the right position for you. And that when you do get to your top working weight set, you're ready to go, everything's set, you're feeling good, and you're able to push it and do so safely with very little risk of injury. Do not skimp the warm-ups, right? That's critical. What else we got there? Another mistake that I see, this is number 5 on our list, lifting too heavy too soon. This is a common mistake you see a lot of guys making. I think the root cause of it is ego, right? As guys, like, nobody wants to look like they're a beginner, or nobody wants to look like they're weak. You know, you always want to kind of put your best foot forward. And very often going to the gym, you're almost embarrassed about, hey, I don't want to be lifting the light weights. Especially you look around and you see bigger and stronger guys there who are lifting heavier weights. You know, you kind of fit in with the bigger, stronger guys. You got to realize everyone has to start off somewhere, right? So I would recommend starting off conservative. And it's okay, especially when you're new to working out, to just go through the motions with easy weight. You don't have to train to failure. You don't have to go balls to the wall and have this grueling workout. It's okay to, like, literally just go through the motions, learn the exercise, learn the form, learn the technique, learn how to get that mind muscle connection, and then just focus on getting better than you were before. When I'm coaching someone for the first time, like I have a brand new student comes in and we're doing like one-on-one coaching. Our first workout, we're literally just going through the motions with warm-up weights. We're kind of like experiment, we might add some weight here and get to a point, but it's never training to failure or anything like that. It's always sub-maximal weight and just focusing on learning the mechanics of the exercise, learning the technique, learning to feel that stretch and contraction, go through the full range of motion, feel the muscles stretch and contract with each repetition, and really try and develop that mind muscle connection. That's our main goal. Then each workout thereafter, we just try and do a little better than we did before. Maybe it's adding an extra 5 pounds. Maybe it's getting an extra rep. Maybe it's doing an extra set or something like that, or just tightening up the form. Like, hey, slow down the cadence so we can really feel that muscle stretch and contract with each repetition. But focus on little, like, baby steps in the right direction. And then eventually, as the weeks progress, yeah, you will get to the point where you're starting to push to muscular failure. But don't be in too big of a hurry to get there. You see all these guys, like on YouTube especially, train, you got to train harder than last time and all this. And that's true. We do want to train harder than last time, but it doesn't mean you want to go balls to the wall and kill yourself with intensity right from the get-go. Like, it's okay to start off light, start off easy, stopping your set short of failure, mastering the proper technique, and then let the weights grow. Let yourself progress versus trying to force yourself to progress. And that's a good analogy. Let yourself grow versus trying to force yourself to grow. All right, the weights will catch up. If you keep training with progressive overload week after week after week, the weights will catch up, but you don't have to force it. Right? It's better to err on the conservative side and stay injury-free. I'm a huge advocate of injury prevention. And I'm speaking from experience because in my younger days, I wish I had an older Lee could go back in time and tell the younger Lee what I'm telling you right now. Because back when I was younger, I thought I was invincible. In my teenage years and then in my early 20s, like, a lot of this stuff I was not really paying attention to. Like, I was training too heavy. I was using poor form. And I was getting away with it because I had youth on my side. When you're young and the joints are healthy and tendons and ligaments are mobile and all that, you can very often get away with a lot of stuff. But eventually, Poor form and lifting too heavy is going to catch up with everybody. And it caught up with me. And I remember I had my first major injury when I was 28 years old, and I have not been the same since. Like that has been like a my Achilles heel ever since, and that's really limited a lot of my training progress. I mean, I've ended up tearing a muscle in my back. I tore both biceps, and I've had multiple minor strains and injuries, like knee injuries and hip injuries, and strained pecs and rotator cuffs. And thankfully, the only major ones was a torn muscle in my back, and both biceps were torn. One bicep fully healed because it was only muscle fiber tear; it wasn't a full tendon tear. One did not fully heal. Like there's a partial tendon tear in my left bicep, and it's shorter than my right now. I mean, I have some battle wounds and scars that'll haunt me for the rest of my life, and they're constant reminders of what I'm teaching you here now. Is you want to lift within your means. That is the key, because when you go to the gym, if you do an easy workout and you don't train to failure, like that's not going to hinder your progress because you can always go back and train again the next day. Even if you skip a workout, big deal, because you can always go back to the gym and train again the next day. But if you go in there, you lift too much too soon, hurt yourself, get injured, whether you tear something, pull something, whatever you do, you're not bouncing back the next day. The only thing that's going to hold your progress back is an injury. Skipping a workout, big deal. You can train again the next day. An easy workout, big deal. You can train again, go harder the next day. While it's not optimal, it's not hindering your progress. But an injury is absolutely hindering your progress. And how do people get injured? 99% of the time, it's because they're lifting too heavy, too much, too soon. That's the root cause. Now, of course, sometimes there's some freak accidents there, like you could still get injured with warm-up weights or whatever. I mean, something could happen, but more often than not, injuries are totally avoidable in the gym. With a bit of common sense and a bit of safety precaution, lifting within your means, you can avoid pretty much the majority of injuries. Because when you talk to people who've gotten hurt, they've gotten hurt because they've either neglected the warm-ups or they lifted too heavy and lifted beyond their means. Right? That's what happened to me. If I had listened to my body and been more aware of this, I could have prevented those injuries that I had from happening. But that's the big ones for sure, right? Another one, similar to what I was talking about before, but it's inconsistent training, like just inconsistent, and meaning that you don't really have a schedule or a pattern. You're just kind of like showing up to the gym when you feel like it. Again, that's not the worst case scenario. I mean, hey, showing up when you feel like it or when it's convenient is better than not showing up at all. But it's good to have a set schedule and try and make that a regular thing in your routine. Just like with your job. I mean, chances are you have a set schedule with your job. You just don't randomly show up when you feel like going to work. Like you probably have a schedule like, hey, I got to work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, yada, yada, yada. Like you have a set schedule that you stick to. You want to have the same thing with your training. You want to have it structured into your routine and then build that in there as a non-negotiable. So if you have other appointments and commitments that come up, schedule them around your workouts. And I know one of my coaching students that I'm working with now, Mike Brown, he schedules his workouts in first, and then all the other things, travel and doctor's appointments and other commitments, they get booked in around his workout. The workout is done first. Like that is priority number one. And then all the other things and all the other errands and things that he has to do, that gets scheduled in after the workout. Whereas most people do it the other way around. They're like, well, I got to do this, and I got this appointment coming up, and I got to take the kids to soccer practice, and I got to do this and that, and I got to go to the grocery store, and I got to do the housework and do the chores around the yard. And when I get all that done, if I have time to work out after all that's done, then I will. And if I don't, then I won't. And we know that the cause, we know the result of that. Usually if you try and squeeze everything else into your schedule, the workout is the last that's going to get done. Like if that's on the bottom rung of the priority ladder, then it's not going to get done. Whereas if you did it the other way around, you say, you know what, I'm going to get that workout done first thing, right? Like either first thing in the morning, or you've got a dedicated time throughout the day. Like maybe on my lunch break, boom, I'm going to go to the gym, get that workout done. Or right after work, when I leave the office, I'm going to head to the gym, get that workout done, and then I'm going to come home for dinner. However you make it work for you and your schedule. and put that in there as a non-negotiable. So that's part of your schedule. And then whatever else comes up, errands and appointments and other to-dos, they get done after the workout. The workout gets done. And this is how you make time for exercise. It's just by prioritizing, because we always find time to do the things we want to do. I know that, like, that's one of the most common mistakes, or not common mistakes, one of the most common excuses that people have for not working out is they say, well, I don't have time to work out. But do you ever say to your wife, well, I don't have time to take you out for dinner on our anniversary, right? I'm just too busy. Or do you ever tell your kids, I don't have time to take you to your sports practice, or to your music lessons, or to your the birthday party on the weekend, or whatever. I don't have time to take you to that because I'm too busy. No, you make time for it because it's a priority. It's important for you, right? It's something that you're going to do. You never say, well, I don't have time, to do these things, but for some reason I don't have time to do the workout. You never tell your wife, well, I don't have time to go to the grocery store, or I don't have time to do this. Or you always somehow make time to do it, right? You make time for the things that are important. Same applies with your workouts. If it's a priority, you're going to make time for it. You're making time to watch this video right now, somehow, some way, some shape, some form. You can probably make time for your workouts as well. It's just a matter of priority. Next common mistake we have there, number 7, not allowing for adequate recovery. This is a common mistake that I see people make once they get into the routine of working out on a consistent basis. And once they get that fire under their belt, I'm working out, I'm committed, I've got a goal that I'm shooting for, whether that's, I want to get in shape for a vacation that's coming up, or I know some guys, they split up from their wife and now all of a sudden they're single again. And they're like, hey, I can't be this fat, overweight, middle-aged dude. Like, I got to get in shape if I want to get out back on the dating scene again and meet somebody. Whatever the motivation is, like, all of a sudden you go from like no motivation, I don't really care, to I'm motivated. I got to get in shape now. Once they hit that goal, or that point, that breaking point of like, I got to get in shape now, then very often, like, they're going to the gym day after day after day. They're pushing themselves. And sometimes then they get to the other side, where from undertraining now to borderline overtraining, and they're not allowing for adequate rest and recovery. And this can be just as detrimental to your progress as undertraining. Like, it's that fine line, right? It's that fine line you want to find where you're not undertraining, but at the same time, you're not overtraining. You want to do optimal training, like it's right in the middle, walking that tightrope, walking that razor's edge of optimal progress, and not falling into overtraining and burnout, or undertraining and not maximizing your progress. And that can be tricky, especially when you're motivated and you're really trying to push yourself. Some things that you really want to focus on, I recommend alternating your workouts. So like every other day is a good schedule for weight training. Like, workout one day, take the next day off, workout one day, take the next day off, and have that like alternate pattern, or 3 days a week. That works really well. And then on those off days from weight training, it doesn't mean you don't do anything at all, but you do some sort of low intensity exercise. One of the things that I recommend is alternating weight training one day and cardio the next. Go to the gym, lift weights, and then on your off days, maybe get outside for a walk, or get outside for a bicycle ride, or do something like that. Some form of low intensity cardio. So high intensity weight training one day, low intensity cardio the next. And this is a great pattern for getting in regular exercise. So you can still keep the habit of daily exercise alive, but you're alternating the forms of exercise and working within your body's recovery, because it's very complementary to do this. Like the high intensity weight training, you're breaking down muscle tissue, you're placing stress and demands on the muscles, joints, tendons, and ligaments. And then when you go for a walk the next day, that's gentle exercise. It's still movement, and you're getting activity and blood flow and circulation, and you're burning fat and calories, but it's not stressful. You come back from a walk, you very often feel invigorated and energized. You don't feel beat up after a walk. It feels good. So it's kind of like active recovery, whereas the weight training, that's more high intensity, and you feel tired and drained after a workout sometimes, especially if you pushed yourself hard, you're going to feel the fatigue. But with a walk, you feel energized, right? So it's combining the demanding high intensity exercise and that gentle, low impact, active recovery type exercise. And it's a very good way to complement both. And I refer to this as my yin and yang style of training, right? So the high intensity weight training one day and the low intensity cardio the next. And this is the way I structure my workouts. And I have been now for almost 8 years now. This is the way I've been structuring my training. Since I've stopped competing in bodybuilding, and I really made this whole muscle after 40 focus on this healthy, sustainable approach, this has been my default training pattern. Weight training one day, cardio the next. Weight training one day, cardio the next. And I really enjoy it. And it has that variety in there, but it prevents me from burning out. Nice complementary balance, but it still allows me to keep the habit of daily exercise in there. That's what I would recommend as well. Next mistake, number 8 on our list, neglecting mobility and flexibility work. Stretching and mobility. That is a big neglected area, especially for guys. Now, I know some of the ladies out there, they'll do like yoga and stretching and things like that, and they'll probably be a bit more adamant about it. But for guys, flexibility work is like the bottom of the bottom of the priority. If for those who are actually going to the gym and working out, usually it's like weight training is the top of the rung. Cardio is like, cardio sucks, but I still do a little bit of it. Flexibility and mobility is like, it's lower than a snake's belly in a wagon rod. It's the bottom of the bottom, like low. It very often just gets totally neglected. That can lead to a lot of problems down the road because flexibility and mobility work is so important, not just for overall health and feeling good and not being stiff and rigid, but it's also good from helping to improve your athletic performance, helping to improve your strength, and helping to improve your muscle growth. I mean, there's been a lot of studies done recently showing the benefits of full range of motion and working the muscles in the fully stretched position and how this can actually aid with muscle growth. If you want to improve your range of motion and you want to improve your flexibility, you need to include stretching. And the best time to stretch is right after your workout. So like you start off your workout, you do your warm-up routine at the start, then you do your actual weight training exercises. And then afterwards, when the muscles are pumped and they're full of blood and they're fully warmed up, that's when you do your static stretching at the end of the workout. And that's when you can get the best bang for your buck because it feels very good. I mean, it's relaxing and it actually feels very good to stretch out after the workout. It helps to relieve some of that tension and stiffness and soreness. It helps to aid with the recovery process. And again, it improves your flexibility, mobility, and your range of motion. And this can also aid with muscle growth. And it doesn't take that much time, like literally 5 to 10 minutes after a workout to just stretch out the muscles that you trained. It can make such a huge difference. And up on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel, I actually have a playlist covering stretching videos showing the stretches that I do personally for all the major muscle groups. So like after a back workout, here's the back stretches that you can do. After a leg workout, here are the leg stretches you can do. After a chest workout, here's the chest stretches. After arms and shoulders, whatever, here are the stretches that you can do. So in the show notes below, what I'll do is I will link to that stretching playlist. And if you want, you can even just go into YouTube, go into the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel and open up the playlists and you'll find it in there as well. It's a bodybuilding stretching routine playlist. But even if you did a search for like Lee Hayward stretching, you should find it. And that's going to make a massive difference to your workouts. One thing that I do want to address here as well, when it comes to stretching, you should stretch a warm muscle. Never stretch a cold muscle. If you're going to do stretching on its own, separate from your workouts, you want to do some sort of warm up beforehand, right? To limber up and get blood flow and circulation and to elevate your core temperature before you start doing stretching. Stretching a cold muscle, you're more likely to pull or strain it versus stretching a warm muscle. And to kind of give you an analogy, think of like if you have a rubber band and you take the rubber band and you put it in the deep freeze and then you take it out when it's cold and rigid and stiff, and then you try and stretch that rubber band when it's cold. It's more likely to tear or snap versus if it's warm and pliable, right? Your muscles are the same way. So if you try and stretch a cold muscle, you're more likely to actually pull or tear it versus if you stretch a warm muscle. So always do your stretching after the workout when everything is fully pumped with blood and warmed up. That's when you're going to get the best bang for your buck. And very often you'll feel more flexible. The stretching won't feel as uncomfortable as when it does when you're stretching a cold muscle. When you stretch a warm muscle, not only does it feel better, but you'll have better range of motion, less risk of injury. Chances are you'll be able to go deeper with those stretches and do so while still feeling good. Right? So always stretch a warm muscle, never stretch a cold muscle. And that's a common mistake that you often see. Like back in the old days, people thought stretching was a warm up. So you'd see people doing static stretching when they first go into the gym. And like, no, that's a mistake. The first thing when you're going back to the warm ups, do some sort of like low intensity cardio, just get your body moving, get your blood flow pumping, circulation happening, and then do some general mobility work, arm circles, knee bends, things like that, trunk rotations, and then progressively heavier warm up sets with your weight training exercises. That's this type of stuff that you do to warm up prior to your weight training. Don't do static stretching as a warm up because it's not. In fact, there's actually been studies showing that stretching before the workout can actually limit your strength, right? It takes some of the power out of the muscle. So the best time to get the best bang for your buck from the stretching, the less risk of injury and the most benefit is to do it post workout. Coming down to the home stretch here, number 9 on our list, lack of goal setting, or basically just lack of vision or focus with your workouts. It's amazing the number of people that I talk to about training, and I ask them, like, how are their workouts going? What are you focusing on now? Oh, nothing. I just go to the gym. Like, well, what are you training for? I just go to the gym, trying to get in shape. I go because it's good for you. Like, are you trying to get bigger? Are you trying to get stronger? Are you trying to lose weight? Are you trying to improve your athletic performance? Like, what are you training for? Like, other than just showing up, what's your purpose for showing up? Because if you go into the gym with no focus, no objective other than to just show up, granted, that's better than not showing up. There are worse hobbies that you could have than just showing up to the gym. I mean, hey, you could just show up to the pub or you could just show up to the fast food joint. But hey, showing up to the gym, I mean, okay, that's better than most, but you could make it so much more productive if you actually show up with a purpose and you have something that you're training for. And for me, this is when I've always made my best gains. My best progress is when I had something that I was focused on, a goal, a vision, a purpose, not just randomly showing up and working out because it's good for you or because you're supposed to do it or whatever, like having a vision. And it doesn't really matter what that vision is. I mean, it could be a competition side of things. And I'm a big advocate of local level competition, whether that's a local level bodybuilding show that you want to do, or maybe you want to run a 5K race, or maybe you want to play basketball with your buddies on the weekend, or you want to play ball hockey, or you want to have a game of touch football, or being a part of some local sporting club or something like that can make a big difference, because then you can transfer the workouts and say, you know what, by working out regularly, it's going to make me better in my sport or my activity, or help me to get ready for that 5K run, or help me to get ready for the softball season or the football season or the hockey season or whatever it is that you're training for. It gives you a bit of purpose and drive behind just working out because I should work out because it's good for you. Like having some sort of goal. I mean, if you're going on a vacation and you say, you know what, hey, I want to drop 10 pounds and I want to have visible abdominal definition for that vacation. I know it may seem a bit vague, but that will give you more drive and focus to stay consistent than having no goal at all. Now, ultimately, it's nice to have some bigger, longer term goals as well, but these little goals can go a long way. And for me, for years, my main drive was competitive bodybuilding. Like ever since I was 17 years old, that's when I did my first bodybuilding competition. And I was competing every year from my teenage years right on up until my early 30s. All right, I did that. And that really kept me focused because every time I went to the gym, even if it was an off-season workout, but I still had that drive of saying, you know, this workout is laying the foundation to help me build more muscle and to get better for my next competition. So there was always a drive or a purpose behind what I was doing. It wasn't just randomly showing up for the hell of it. Like there was always a drive or a purpose. Once I stopped competing in bodybuilding, and in recent years now, I started competing in local cycling races. So this past year, I've done a lot of different cycling events, and it's been a lot of fun. And so I view my workouts in the gym as training to help me get better on the bike, right? So I want to build up my core and my stability and the muscle power and explosiveness in the gym, and then have that transfer to help me become a better cyclist. And that's been giving me some focus and drive with my workouts. It's always nice to have something that you're training for, some sort of a goal. It could be a weight loss goal or a muscle gain goal or a particular strength goal. Like maybe you got a goal, let's say, like, hey, I want to bench press my body weight for 10 reps, right? Maybe that's a goal of yours. Or I want to bench press my body weight for 1 rep. Or it might be, hey, I want to be able to do 5 pull ups, or I want to be able to do 25 push ups, whatever. Like you could have some strength goals and targets in mind like that, which is great. It could be to compete in a bodybuilding competition. It could be to compete in a powerlifting competition, or a Spartan race or something along those lines. Like something like it's nice to have that friendly competition and approach it with that attitude of like, I'm not trying to be the next world champion superstar. Like I'm just doing this to be the best version of me, but use the competition as fuel and drive, because when you're in a competition setting, you're going to push yourself more than when you're just doing it on your own. I find this myself, like even this past year, like I've been doing a lot of cycling races, and some of them have been just small local races. And we always joke about it. We say, like, hey, you put a bunch of guys together and you call it a race, like everybody's going to go out there and try harder than if you just went out by yourself for a ride. There's nothing stopping me from any given Saturday to go out there and push a max effort ride. Like I could do that, but I'm less likely to. But organize an event, put a bunch of guys together, call it a race, put that element of competition behind it. Now, granted, there's no prize. You're competing just for bragging rights and just the sheer fun of competition. Like there's nothing on the line here. You're not winning any money. You're not getting any titles or anything like that. It's just a fun, friendly weekend warrior competition. But you're more likely to push yourself because it's a competition. And I've made such good improvements over the last year by doing that. Prime example, like over the fall, we've had weekly time trial bicycle races. And I did those for the last 7 weeks in a row now. I've been competing in time trial races. And I've seen my fitness just improve week by week by week. And this past week, when we had our final time trial race of the season, because it's getting cold here in Newfoundland, Canada. I mean, in fact, there was snow falling and ice ice in the puddles this morning. Right, it's getting cold, too cold for road cycling. But we had our last event last weekend, and I set a personal best. Right, I hit a new personal best power output number, personal best time for the time trial, hit a new VO2 max. It was so much fun, like just training consistently and pushing myself and having that friendly competition to keep me consistent and to give focus to my workouts helped me to accelerate my progress versus just showing up and working out with no rhyme or reason or focus. It's so easy to flounder around when you don't have a focused goal, but when you have something that you're training for, it's so much easier to stay focused and actually make better progress. Give yourself some sort of goal. If you need help with that, feel free to reach out to me and we can discuss something. But try and get around people in your local area, local competition in whatever sport or activity you're in. That will help to pull you up to a higher level. Like get around like-minded people and let their energy and enthusiasm pull you up to a higher level. It will help you so much more than just trying to be the lone wolf and do it on your own. All right, the final mistake we have here, and this one's not necessarily related to workouts, but it impacts your workouts, and that is ignoring your nutrition. This is a common one, especially for guys. They like going to the gym, they like working out, or they like playing sports, or they like doing whatever, but then they totally fall off the rails when it comes to nutrition. And a lot of the local sporting events that I see people participate in, whether it's football or softball or hockey or whatever, we refer to them as beer sports because they go play the sport on the weekend and they all go drinking beer afterwards, beer and pizza after the big game day. Sure, it's nice to have the social and the camaraderie and then the sport, but if you're following it up with poor nutrition choices, then that's not going to optimize your progress. So nutrition can make or break it, especially once you start really pushing the limits here. And having a well-structured nutrition program, even if it's just covering the basics, like Are you getting in enough protein? Are you getting in a gram of protein per pound of body weight per day? Or per pound of ideal body weight per day, if you want to really dial it in, especially if someone's trying to lose weight, a gram of protein per pound of your goal target body weight per day. And that also applies if someone's trying to gain weight, right? A gram of protein per pound of your target goal body weight per day. If you want to weigh 200 pounds, strive for 200 grams of protein per day. Very few people are actually eating enough protein. Even when I'm looking at people that I'm working with, coaching students, people that I talk to at the gym, people who reach out to me and I message through email and private messenger chats and stuff like that, very few people are consuming their protein. Now, it's not rocket science. Like everybody knows, you should be eating adequate protein to build and repair muscle tissue. Like it's been ingrained in us since the beginning of time in the whole bodybuilding, sports nutrition world. But that one thing, very few people are doing it, right? Very few people are, even though, oh, I know what to do. Well, how come you're not doing it? Right? Like knowing it and actually doing it are two totally different things. Even just that alone, meeting your protein intake and having that spaced out evenly over the course of the day, over at least 4 or 5 feedings per day is going to make a massive difference. Another one, getting in adequate vegetables. Like a lot of guys, I mean, okay, even if they're meeting their protein intake needs, a lot of them are falling short, especially on the vegetable needs. My personal nutrition benchmark that I try to strive for is I want to have a serving of protein and a serving of vegetables with every meal. Protein and veggies, like that's your tag team duo, your Batman and Robin, right? That's the foundation of all healthy meals. Protein and veggies, get that in there. I mean, if you just did that alone, had a serving of protein and a serving of vegetables and had that with all your main meals, that would make a huge difference, right? That's the foundation right there. And then also making sure that you're getting adequate carbohydrates, good quality complex carbohydrates based on your activity level. Now, carbohydrates are like the wild card because you can adjust that up or down based on how active you are and what your goals are, right? Whether like if you're very active and you're had a hard day of sports or a hard day of physical labor or a hard day of out biking or hiking or doing something, you want to eat more carbohydrates to replenish your glycogen stores and to nourish your body and to give you the energy, right? So you can eat more when you burn more. And then on the days when you're not as active, then you can scale back the carbohydrates a little bit and be a bit more conservative. But that's something that you want to make sure that you're getting adequate carbohydrates because that is your high octane fuel source. Like if you're in the gym and you're pushing yourself, trying to lift heavy or improve your sports performance, trying to do so on low carbs or inadequate carbs or inconsistent eating, it ain't going to happen. Like you need to have that nourishment. You need to nourish the body on the cellular level if you want it to perform properly. Right. I mean, it's just like if you had a high performance sports car, would you try and run it on watered down gas or would you not give it enough gas? Like have the car run out of gas when it's halfway down the racetrack. That's not going to help the performance. But a lot of guys end up doing that in the gym. They try and get through a hardcore high intensity workout on suboptimal nutrition and it just doesn't work that way, right? You need to nourish your body on the cellular level and have your nutrition match your activity, right? So on the days you're burning more is the days you want to eat more, right? That's a big one for sure. There's a lot we can go in there, but even if you just focus on those fundamentals right there, protein and veggies with each meal and then matching your carbohydrate intake to your activity levels, that can go a long way. And another one that I want to touch on here as well is the idea of pre-workout nutrition versus post-workout nutrition. Like for those of you who've been around the bodybuilding and sports nutrition world for a while, you've probably heard the whole idea of this post-workout anabolic window and post-workout nutrition. Like especially throughout the 90s and the early 2000s, like that was the big theme is, oh, you got to have your post-workout shake and you got to have, optimized post-workout nutrition. And don't get me wrong, post-workout nutrition is important, but it's not nearly as important as pre-workout nutrition. I would much rather see somebody eat prior to the workout and nourish themselves prior to the workout so that you actually have energy to run on versus going through the workout running on empty and thinking of then topping it up afterwards. What's the point of having good quality nutrition after the workout is done? We want to have good quality nutrition before the workout even starts so that you actually have something to run on. it's kind of counterproductive in that sense when you think of it. It's like I want to have my caffeine as a good energy booster, help perk you up. So I'm going to have a big cup of coffee after the workout. Why do you want to be stimulated after the workout? Right? You want to have it before the workout so that you can actually get through the workout with the benefits of it. Same when it comes to your nutrition. Like, why are you going to save all your high nutrient energizing foods for after the workout? Like, why not have it in you beforehand so that you can get through the workout feeling strong and energetic and actually having the good quality amino acids and the good quality carbohydrates to top up your glycogen store so that you can power through that workout with energy and get good muscle pumps, and that's also going to be breaking down and digesting during the workout itself. So, I mean, it'll be there during the workout when you need it, and it's also going to be releasing after the workout as well. So, if you want to get the head start on post-workout nutrition, it starts with pre-workout nutrition. And depending on the type of activity you're doing, you could even supplement that in there with intra-workout nutrition. So this is especially true when it comes to like long distance endurance sports and activities that are lasting more than 2 hours. If your workout or activity is 2 hours or less, pre-workout nutrition is probably adequate. And then the glycogen you have stored in your muscle cells. But if you're doing something that's lasting 2 hours or more, then you definitely want to have some intra-workout nutrition in there as well, so that you're keeping your glycogen levels topped up and you're providing fuel so that you don't run out of glycogen. Because when you run out of glycogen, it's like hitting the wall, right? It's what's known as bonking in the whole sports world. And you don't want that to happen, where you run out of glycogen. And then it's almost like your car running out of gas. Like, hey, I feel good, I feel great, and then all of a sudden, nothing. Right? Just like when you're driving your car, right? Hey, the gas light's coming on, but hey, the car's still running good. Everything's going great. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Then all of a sudden, pop, 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 boom. What happened? You ran out of gas, right? The car's not going to run on no gas. Same applies when you run out of glycogen with your workouts. Like, you could be feeling good and having lots of energy and pushing yourself. And then all of a sudden, once you run out of glycogen, you maxed out your muscle glycogen and your liver glycogen. It's just like falling off a cliff when it comes to your energy. And very often feel lightheaded. You could feel dizzy, but you like have no power. You may be able to keep going, but your power output is just like dramatically reduced, because now you have to actually start breaking down lean muscle tissue, breaking down body fat, and trying to convert that into energy. And that's a much slower and inefficient source of energy compared to glycogen. Glycogen is your high octane fuel, which just comes from carbohydrates. Carbs are your high octane fuel source. On the days that you're burning more, you want to make sure that you're eating more and fueling those workouts with pre-workout and intra-workout. And then you can also top it up afterwards with post-workout nutrition. But pre-workout nutrition and intra-workout nutrition top the priority. Post-workout nutrition is nice to have, especially if you have another training session coming up soon. Like, you think of like an athlete, for example, who maybe is doing a twice a day training. Maybe they do a weight training workout in the morning and they got sports practice in the afternoon. Well, having post-workout nutrition is going to help make sure that they have adequate nutrition for their practice in the afternoon, because what's post-workout in the morning is technically pre-workout for the second session of the day. It can help to aid when you're doing multiple sessions per day and you're very active. But for an individual session in and of itself, pre-workout and intra-workout is a lot more important than post-workout. So you just want to prioritize your nutrition that way. And again, if you want some help with this, like with all the stuff that we talked about here, like if you would like some help with laying out a solid training program that's customized to you, your situation, your fitness goals, your mobility issues, that anything that you're working around, you want to have a good structured program that's customized to you, and as well as a nutrition program, feel free to reach out to me. Like, this is something that I do on a daily basis with my students with the Muscle After 40 coaching program, help to customize a realistic action plan that works for them. So if that's something you're interested in, feel free to reach out to me. You can just drop me an email. Again, I got my email address down in the show notes below, and we can have a chat and see if we can map out a realistic action plan that's right for you. So that concludes the Total Fitness Bodybuilding podcast for today. So again, a quick recap of the top 10 workout mistakes that people are making. Number one, the on and off, all or nothing trap, right? We want to be good enough and good enough consistently. Mistake number two, having no structure to the workouts. We want to have a good structured program that's designed with progressive overload in mind, so that you're getting bigger and stronger and seeing progress on a regular basis. Mistake number 3, neglecting important muscle groups, right? We don't want to neglect anything. We want to hit all the major muscle groups in balance and proportion. Mistake number 4, skipping the warm-ups, right? That is the most important part of the workout. Even though it doesn't feel like it, the warm-up is what's going to set you up for a productive workout, and it's going to help to prevent injury. Mistake number 5, lifting too heavy too soon. Learn to lift within your means and let yourself grow versus trying to force yourself to grow. And again, think of this as the long game. We're not trying to sprint to the finish here. We want to be in this for the long game. So like, where are you going to be in a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? You want to be going strong and steady years from now and avoiding injury. And if you try and go too heavy too soon, chances are you're going to be laid up with injuries, and it's not going to allow you to be consistent. Number 6, inconsistent training, right? Not having a schedule where you're following your workouts on a consistent basis. Like if you want to make progress and you want this to be a lifestyle approach where you can look back and be proud of your results, you have to prioritize those workouts, put those in the calendar first, and then factor everything else around it. Number 1, workout gets put into the calendar, and then all your other to-dos get scheduled in around the workout. I mean, ideally, if you can do it first thing in the morning, that would be the best, right? Get it done, crossed off the checklist first thing in the morning, and then you can't get distracted later in the day with all the other responsibilities and tasks and chores and whatever else that comes your way. But I know that may not always be possible, because sometimes guys have to be at work for ridiculously early hours. Like I know some of my coaching students, like they got to be at work for 4 a.m. or something like that. So it's not always practical to get to the gym before then. Sometimes the gym's not even open before then. So maybe you have to schedule it in later in the day. But regardless of when you do it, whether it's morning, noon, or night, make that a commitment. Schedule it in the calendar as a non-negotiable. Get those workouts done. Don't just leave it to chance or work out when you feel like it. Schedule it in and get it done. Number 7, not allowing for adequate recovery. This is more important, especially as you become more advanced with your training, but you need to let your muscles rest, recover, and grow in between workouts in order to optimize your progress. The 8th mistake, neglecting mobility and flexibility work. As I mentioned, this is the low priority for most guys when it should be a top priority, right? We want to prioritize flexibility work. And as I mentioned before, the best time to do your stretching and flexibility work is post-workout, when your muscles are pumped up, warmed up. That's when you're going to get the best bang for your buck from stretching. All right. Number 9, lack of goal setting. Have a goal, have something. And again, it doesn't have to be some grand goal, but something that's meaningful for you, whether that's a strength goal, whether that's a weight goal, whether that's some sort of performance goal, fitting into your old clothes again goal, but have some sort of vision so that when you go to the gym, you have a purpose. You're not just showing up for the heck of showing up. Like you actually have something like in the back of your mind, you're like, I'm here because I want to achieve this. And you have a specific goal. And then each time you're going there, you can say, I'm working towards this goal. And then when you're in those moments, you're debating, should I go today? Should I not go today? Think, how is this going to impact my goal? Is skipping a workout today going to move me closer to achieving my goal? Have that goal is going to make you so much more committed and focused on actually showing up and doing all the things that you need to do to make that goal a reality. And then, of course, the 10th mistake is ignoring the nutrition. You need to have the nutrition in there in order to fuel and nourish the body and to get the most from your workouts. You want to have all the pieces in place for optimal progress. And again, if you want some help with that, feel free to reach out to me, drop me an email or message me on Facebook or wherever, and I'll be more than happy to have a chat with you and see if we can map out a realistic action plan that's right for you. All right, so that clues it up for today's episode of the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Podcast, and we'll be back again next week with another one. Have yourself a great one. I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Over and out.